How did they not see that our daughter was missing part of her brain in an ultrasound? If it was genetic related, wouldn't you have seen this in a prenatal genetic screening? The answer to both of those is no. And not only did the doctors not know anything was wrong, we didn't know anything was wrong with Poppy until she was around 3 or 4 months old. And at that point, it would only be 1 year until she would pass away. So those are just some questions that I've had recently. And so I thought I would kind of backtrack and just share the whole story of Poppy's life in more detail than I've ever shared before, just to kind of bring some clarity. We had 2 children and we got pregnant with our 3rd, and we were so excited to complete our family with our little baby. Everything in the pregnancy was typical for me. It was a hard pregnancy, but it was what I was used to. The one thing I will say is she had a very tiny head. So when I gave birth to her, she literally popped out. The doctor had to catch her. It was shocking for everyone in the room. After we had just given birth to her, I was holding her. We were talking with the nurse about some name ideas that we had, and we had 2 name ideas. We either wanted to name her Emma or Poppy, leaning 99% towards Poppy, but Emma was still a 1% option to my husband. And the nurse that had just been there to help with the delivery was oh my goodness, you have to name her Poppy. I feel I already knew I was going to name her that, but that sealed the deal. We brought her home from the hospital just 24 hours later. Only issue I would say we had with Poppy right off the bat was that she had a really, really hard time nursing. And I had nursed our first 2 children for probably too long, but I just saw myself as an expert nurse. And so the fact that Poppy was just not getting it, she wouldn't really wake up to nurse, she was having a hard time latching. I just know that all babies are different, and so I thought, you know what, it'll just take her a little bit longer to get this, but we'll get there. We will get there. But to be honest, it did cause me quite a bit of stress. When she was 3 days old, we took her into the pediatrician for her first ever appointment. And this was a pediatrician we had never seen before. We had just moved to the town we're in now the year prior, and I just hadn't connected my kids with a pediatrician yet. So this is a brand new pediatrician. We went in, took Poppy, and pretty quickly, he started doing some little tapping tests, and he noticed that she had low tone. You guys, I don't quite understand what low tone is. Maybe the lack of muscle development. But he kept saying it and he was concerned. And so he actually excused himself to go talk with some of his colleagues about Poppy. At this point, I was 3 days postpartum. I still was taking my postpartum painkillers. And we thought maybe that taking those, they were coming through my milk supply and causing Poppy to be extra sleepy, have the low tone. We just weren't sure. Everything else about her looked perfect and fine and normal, but there was this one area that our pediatrician was concerned about. And so he said, you know what, the other doctors don't seem concerned about it. Why don't you just come back in 4 days when she's 1 week old, and we will kind of reevaluate, just to make sure. And so when we left that appointment, I was actually pretty upset. I mean, I was 3 days postpartum, and here a pediatrician who I'd never met before was telling me something was wrong with my perfect, beautiful baby. So I actually made follow-up appointment 4 days later with a different pediatrician. I wanted to see an MD because this other one was a PA. So I wanted the next tier up doctor to take a look at Poppy. My husband went back to work, and it was just me and Poppy who went in when she was 1 week old. This doctor, he talked a lot, but I don't feel he looked at her. I had a tiny bit of concern just because the other pediatrician was concerned. But this other doctor, again, I think he just looked at her and was she looks like a newborn, and sent us on our way. And I just didn't vibe well with that doctor. And so I decided, you know what, for the rest of our appointments, I'm gonna go back to the PA because he at least seemed thorough. He at least looked at Poppy. I'm just gonna go back. So life went on as normal with a newborn in the family. I love having a newborn. I just felt life was perfect as a family of 5. Poppy continued to be a great sleeper. She continued to have struggles with nursing, but ultimately, I didn't have any concerns. I wasn't looking for there to be anything wrong with her. It just wasn't even going through my mind. When she was 2 months old, we took her back to the original PA pediatrician for her 2-month well check. And at this appointment, her tone looked better. The doctor could see that she was growing and developing. She was very tiny, much, much tinier than my other kids, but she was also the smallest when she was born. Even though she was tiny, she was still growing. One thing that he did note was that her head was small, very small. I want to say it was in the 1 or 3rd percentile. My first 2 kids had pretty small heads. I have a small head. My husband has a small head. So I told the doctor, we're just a family of small heads. She's fine. She's perfect. But that is something that our pediatrician noted, was that she had a small head. And that was her 2-month well check. We went along our way having a perfect baby, and it wouldn't be for about another month and a half until we would start to really notice that Poppy wasn't fine, that something was wrong with our baby, but we weren't sure what. Come back for part 2.